So I really wish that I hadn't finished that last video when I did. I rushed through it because they were back and I didn't think they were going anywhere. And then got baited again. Just walking right back into the fucking bullshit, y'all. So, apparently, she asked my brother if they were picking him up, or picking Gracie up today, and he said, yeah, that's fine. Because he and Jen told our parents that since they will be leaving soon, if they want to pick the kid up and spend some time with her, that's fine. I was not in part of that conversation with the part that today was involved with. I didn't think anything was happening today. I knew they were trying to get rid of the camper, which they did not do, because, that was a big pressing issue and blah, blah, blah. Damn bird. But, Zippy, come here. Come here, Zips. Come here. I'm gonna shut this. My brother knows better too. Basically the stuff that happens with the kid, either he and I need to have the conversation or it needs to be in the group text because she does stupid shitty stuff like she does. My brother, I sent him a message, so I had to end the video anyway because I had to connect with him about what was going on. Since the camper thing did not go through today, she comes back and asks me to get Gracie because it's just this big pressing thing that she needs to go get more broccoli cheddar soup for this kid because the kid's into the soup right now. It's like, why does that have to happen today? For God's sakes, on early pickup day, because school lets out at 3 o'clock for some reason instead of 3:30 today. And it's literally just the stupid baiting bullshit. That's all it is. And I know that's all it is. The problem we're having right now is when it comes to the kid, I'm not going to take any chances on that, right? And my brother and I were doing really good at keeping the conversation open and being on the same page with everything for a long time. She's back into the middle of it. He made the statement the other day, or he said the other day that, they asked last week if we would pick Gracie up from school on Thursday and took her to school on Thursday. He asked when my parents were around. That automatically means it's their thing. So, if they were normal humans, it wouldn't be a problem. They're not. They're assholes. They're narcissistic assholes. At least one. The other one's, at very least, extremely toxic and the greatest flying monkey of all of her bullshit. So since he asked about pick up and drop off on Thursday last week, when they were there, they got all excited and it became their thing again. And it's kind of, I got kind of shifted out. But now today, she has to go get the soup for Gracie because it's so important that she goes and gets this soup that Gracie wants. It's like, that is not a pressing thing right now. It's not, especially since you were the one that said you would get the kid. What I might do is pick the kid up and take her immediately home so she's not here to be around them and their stupid bullshit. And this fucks up my dog walking time. I mean, since I'm doing the video mainly, which obviously that's on me. And I have no idea how to put this video attached to the other one other than post them both separately and just like put the link to each other. That's all I know how to do on that. I don't know anything about this technology shit, right? I do the bare minimum on technology and like when it comes to the YouTube stuff because I don't know. But I really just wanted to continue this. Now, if I just wrap it up and don't make it a real long one today, I set my alarm just in case for 2:30 to make sure to be done and going there by then. If I give myself more time than that, then I absolutely will go see about walking the dogs. But it is currently 1:38. I could have just looked over there rather than messing with my phone. Anyway, my brother apologized and he said, I hoped she wouldn't do this, wouldn't pull you back into this now that Gracie's involved. It's like, and I even said, I just flat out said, a snake sheds its skin but doesn't cease to be a snake. It's like, this is our mother, yes. She is, yes. She's incredibly toxic, and I'm incredibly ready to be done with this situation, especially when this shit keeps coming up like this. And then, because this isn't fun enough, right? Okay, I have talked a lot about all these daggone cancer placements, and then I just had a pattern app update for something that might be affecting me right now. And I've gotten this update several times before, but I think this is like one of the first times it really registered. And I listened to the little audio clip that the lady was talking. Okay, first off, let me just go back to this point of I have this Cancer stellium, right? So my Cancer rising sign is in the first house, but my Cancer sun, moon, Mercury, and Mars are in the 12th house. But that there's this whole, God, the spicy super crab thing. I have some fire placements. I have absolutely no earth. Of course, it is the ruler of, Virgo is the ruler of one of the houses. I don't know which one. Same with Capricorn and Taurus. But I do have, okay, my descendant is in Capricorn, since the ascendant is in Cancer. But that's the extent of the things, right? And that one, the way I've read it and really taken it to me, okay, when the descendant end pops up, it talks about expecting a partner that's capable of holding things together. With all this water, it makes sense. But with the stupid thing that just registered this time around, it makes even more sense. It's like, it kind of feels like a cosmic joke at some level because of how damn much water influence there is. So, okay, before the update that I got, there's also, like in the Chinese zodiac thing for 1983. Okay, that's the year of the pig. And, it kind of rotates through the different elements too. So 83 is water pig. It's like, great, because I need more water, right? But then I get this thing that, okay, apparently I also have a Neptune complex. And it says not everybody has a Neptune complex. I do. And what it says for this is the pattern app. I'm going to have to pay for this damn app sooner than later because there's a lot of useful stuff that I think I need more to hold on to and more guidance and direction for this stuff. But it is absolutely on point. So with my Neptune complex, it says Neptune is the ruler of water. And so in a sense, it adds a tremendous amount of water to your chart. And the way we look at the elements is water is bringing fluidity and it washes away anything practical anything you're trying to control, and it softens it and puts this dreamy sort of gauze over your life and your perception, direction, and beliefs. So that's an incredibly profound thing, and if you didn't have to manifest things and exist day to day in the mundane world, this is fabulous. It's almost like being in this ecstatic state of fantasy, idealism, and being in the heart. This energy washes away the practical side of you and is an initiation to be more in the heart and less in the mind. It's taking you to a place of learning to trust your intuition and your deeper self and being guided by something greater than the goals of the material world. Because I needed more fucking water, right? It's like, I think I've listened to the audio several times and I think it just didn't really register. And it hit me this time, but then as I was writing it down and seeing it again, it's like, because, there was a thing to click to read the insight. It's like, no wonder I've had so many issues trying to figure anything out. No wonder I've had issues trying to disconnect with this family situation. And I keep getting sucked back into the bullshit. There was an 11:11 up there when I started stuttering all throughout that stupid nonsense. It was like, I don't even know. I was like, okay. If you didn't have to manifest things and exist day to day in the mundane world, yeah, an ecstatic state of fantasy and idealism and being in the heart. That makes absolute sense on why I've had so many issues with disconnecting from toxic things, with having boundaries, with being able to be in some kind of control of what's going on in my life, and and just get fuck, I don't know. But that whole pull to be in the heart space, this is an initiation to be more in the heart and less in the mind. It is taking you to a place of learning to trust your intuition and deeper self and being guided by something greater than the goals of the material world. Which makes sense that the whole twin flame thing is a thing for me, that I have to, like, literally, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. The fact that this person exists, period, is the only reason that I've been able to navigate through any of the shit that I've been working on in the past few years, right? Especially the past year and a half. Because it wasn't until the whole twin flame thing came up, and then it was only because I committed my love life and career life over to the universe to guide. Only then did it take me to the who, although I've been aware of his existence, like the real human that is this, like, connecting point. the heart connection that I have, right? The thing guiding me on this whole journey. I've been aware of his existence since, I think, 2019 was, or the start of 2020 is when I heard of the band. And 21 was when I encountered his energy, and then, like, started down this crazy chaos path of healing and facing all these, shadow aspects of myself, and, the tremendously painful things. It wasn't like it definitely kicked some stuff into gear, because after I committed the love and career to the universe to lead, then it shows me who. And I've said my initial response when it showed me who was, yeah, right. He's out of my league, right? And immediately the response was, are you going to let us handle this, or are you going to do it your way again? It's like, well, my way hasn't gotten me anywhere so far, and I've continuously fucked everything up for myself over and over again because I didn't know what I was doing, was struggling with all this bullshit, right? So it's like, what do I have to lose with this silly, lofty idea that this is the person that I've been looking for in my lifetime? And so I leaned into it, right? And as I started to lean into it, I kept getting all these messages about needing to set boundaries. Like, I talked about the cards, the animal apothecary deck that, the tiger cards kept coming up. And of course, that was the time frame I took this picture right up here of this way cool tigress staring at me. Because after I committed my love life and career life to the universe to take the lead on and figured out who this person was, then we go take Gracie to the zoo, and it was like he was there with me the whole day, even though he was not in that space. Is this part of the Neptune complex? Fuck, probably. Because there's a whole lot of this whole dreamy thing. Like, my whole life it felt like the dreamy gauze thing. I get that. And that makes perfect sense why I've struggled so much with so many things along the way, and not being able to make sense of things. And like, when the red flags come along, why I've not been able to really see them and see them as a problem and walk away, because, then, I still see the stuff where people don't have to be shitty people. But sometimes people are shitty people, and you have to let them do their own thing, be their own problem. At the end of the day, when I leave here and they're stuck to deal with themselves and each other, that's not my problem. Never should have been my problem. In fact, that whole connection is toxic in and of itself too. So, yeah. Anyway, the tiger stuff, that's where, like, I kept getting all this big push to be mindful of boundaries. But it still wasn't until I started taking the classes at Inner Path, which I had wanted to do going into 2021. But I talked myself out of it because it made me nervous to be around new people. Especially after the whole divorce thing and just all the healing that went in with just the initial stuff. Then trying to get to this deeper level of things. Like, okay, I knew the twin flame stuff was important to me then. Like back in 2020, 21, I think it's 21. There's a lot of things that I have thought were 2020 and then discovered were 2021. And it's like literally everything in the past 5 or 6 years just blends together so much that I don't know. I know there are things that have been going on, and especially with this whole Neptune thing and everything that I've been learning about myself on this journey, I can see why it's also been so essential that I started writing consistently. This twin flame journal thing that I'm on book 12 now, making it a consistent daily practice to write, if nothing else, more than what cards I fucking drew for the day. And those don't always get written in there, but some of them do. Oh, fuck. Yes. I can talk about that. Damn it. Hold on. Okay. So these cards were my energy for the week. And they were 1,000% on point. So they got written in the book. They also got set aside for when I do the video, right? And I forgot about it in the early part of the video because I got sidetracked and interrupted and all that shit. Anyway, first card for energy of the week. There's 3 of them. The first one is sixth chakra archangel Metatron in reverse. So, find it in the book and scratch my head in the process. What this means. Okay. This card reversed admonishes you to get clear. You may have been lost in confusion and had unclear or distorted thinking. But even if this state of mental chaos has been going on for quite some time, your lack of personal direction can be turned around. Take off the blinders and widen your perspective. Visualize the life you want to live and the person you want to be, and make that your intention. It's time to break out of the old toxic thought patterns, whether they be habits of worry, doubt, self-criticism. It's also time to develop a clearer, healthier vision of how you perceive yourself and what you want your daily life to look like. Know that you are in charge of making it so. Meditate on Metatron's strong presence in your brow center and see a beautiful indigo light spinning there. Affirm that you are creating new clarity and sense of direction. You have all the power you need to create a strong personal vision that will guide you on your path. Make that a priority now. The next one, the Happy Family card in reverse. Okay, again. Now, when I first, okay, that one makes sense with everything that's been going on with my family this week, and that I pulled this card, it's for this week, after I said that I want to get to the good stuff, and if that means throwing away, walking away from the shitty family existence that I've been in, I'm ready to do that. Let's do that, right? So that makes perfect sense that that would be the card. Okay, reversed. Okay, when the Happy Family card is reversed, it indicates a separation or emotional distance from family members or close friends. This disconnect may be from your family origin, such as your parents or siblings, or it may be that something is standing between you and your present family members, whether it be your children or spouse. There could be some hostilities that need to be worked out, or perhaps some fences that need to be mended. Communication and patience may be called for here, so let your intuition be your guide. Remember, real healing starts when you choose to become your own loving parent, sibling, spouse, friend, or child. The lesson in every relationship is self-honoring, and sometimes the karma is just to let go. There's my family. The last one. Now, let's keep in mind that point of, now that I closed it, the last sentence, the lesson in every relationship is self-honoring, and sometimes the karma is just to let go. Okay, this is important, right? The next card, the final card for the week, energy, Angel of Balance, upright. That's always happy, right? Okay, 48, where's she at? Oh, I'm in it. There it is. First off, the little thing, it says under the card, being centered and self-honoring in your choices. Back to that self-honoring point. This loving presence holds a pitcher of liquid light in front of the pyramids, reminding you that a strong destiny relies on a solid foundation of personal balance and emotional, I don't know that word, equanimity, I don't know, however you say that. Although things may have been out of sync in the past, this card is telling you that a greater equilibrium is now coming into your life. Remain conscious about how you are balancing your goals and your physical and emotional energy as well. Whenever you feel yourself getting off center or losing focus, call upon this beautiful angel and bring her intention into your heart center. Your intuition will lead you in the right direction, and the angel will guide you to a peaceful and centered approach. Well, it's like the themes, right? So your intuition leading you in the right direction, and bringing her energy into your heart center and all this stuff, and then going back to the pattern thing and this energy, this Neptune complex energy, washes away the practical side of you, and this is an initiation to be more in the heart and less in the mind. It's taking you to a place of learning to trust your intuition and your deeper self and being guided by something greater than the goals of the material world. Okay. Yeah. I was watching a couple, I think both Dr. Ramani and that Richard Grannon both had videos talking about the narcissism stuff. And of course, Dr. Ramani had the one that was about baiting specifically. I've used that word a lot today because it's literally what my mother is doing and what I can see her doing. But then, it's this whole thing where there's that dreamy gauze over how I perceive everything. And then that's why I keep getting sucked back into the bullshit in dealing with my family. And one of the things that I started with today, where I started to dishonor myself, is I got a text message from her earlier when they left to sell the camper. I don't know why I did that. That's not really relevant when they were planning to sell the camper, but it didn't work out. But she said there was a bunch of stuff in the driveway. Could I put it in the house or in the garage? And the thought in my mind was, no, I don't want to do that. Why did you leave it there to begin with? But then it was also, it looks kind of like it wants to rain, so maybe I'll not be a jerk and just go bring it in. But then it's like that little bit, just that stupid choice or lack of direction on the self-honoring thing. Even though this is really stupid, because if it was a normal human, me doing that stuff would have been fine and whatever. But because my mom is who she is and this family is the way it is, it was the thing where they're trying to pull me back into the bullshit. So now, can I go pick up Gracie early from school when she made the agreement with my brother? And this is literally just her way of getting in the middle of shit and trying to be in control again. I'm so fucking sick of this bullshit, man. I'm really sick and tired of the fact that I hate having to have so much focus on following through, because who I am wants to be helpful and help other people where I can. Who they are is they see that and want to suck the life out of it and make you some kind of miserable person like they are, because they thrive on negativity and just that little bit, just getting knocked off balance, that little bit is enough for a problem, right? And now I'm seeing there's all this other stuff playing into it too. And I keep getting these, or coming across these things on social media with different astrologers talking about things that are going on and how it might affect the different signs and all this stuff. It's just fuck, dudes. Fuck. Yeah. One of the Richard Grannon videos that I watched the other day, he was talking about that point of they're not going to change. And, basically get out of the idea of they could change. They're not going to change. The thing is, I mentioned, okay, this was something that I was kind of thinking through yesterday, because I said something the other day that it's I'm not sure if that came through as a wishy-washy way of being, because the thing is, I don't believe that anybody is beyond redemption, if you will. That said, the reason we have such a toxic government structure, and just all the shit in society that doesn't work, is because there are so many people. Okay, but we've been taught we're not supposed to have boundaries. We've been taught that, we need something outside of ourselves to save ourselves. So we don't do anything for ourselves because, and then once you have Jesus, then you don't need to do any work because you have Jesus, you have salvation, blah, blah, blah. And so that's, fuck it. No, that is not the case. All that does is set it up so you don't ever do the work. And then you're just going around, bleeding on everybody else because of your wound, because of the shit that that you've struggled with and not dealt with because you're afraid to go inside and face your own shadows because you don't feel you need to, because Jesus did it and I have Jesus now, so I don't need to do the work. Fuck it. Now, the reason the shitty behavior is deemed somehow acceptable, the reason people can go on like social media and just like come up with whatever bullshit and how this person is doing the wrong thing because Jesus wouldn't have you do this kind of blah, 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 fucking church bullshit. Yeah. Anyway, it's 2:00. I need to get my act together. So, the reason the bad behavior, like this narcissism bullshit with my family, has been able to continue as it is because those of us that have been taught that we're not supposed to have boundaries or just, moved in a direction where we're not able to have them and to understand why they are necessary is because that lets those energy vampires, which is anybody who's not willing to do the work, anybody who's willing to just bask in their toxicity and forever play the victim and all that bullshit, when they get stuck in those spaces and the negative thought bubbles and all that bullshit and are essentially pulling on the energy of others, right? So I've talked on here several times about when I was in basic training, there was some girl that called me Debbie Downer, and it's like, I'm not that bad. But then as I sat with it, it's like, maybe I am. So at that time period, which makes perfect sense because I was very much involved in this church bullshit. Yeah, I was. I was kind of toxic too. I am not afraid to say that my own toxicity throughout my life is the reason I ended up in that shitty relationship to begin with my ex. And I thought that I somehow deserved that. That is toxic thinking. That is, it's not... Okay, people want to automatically condemn you for victim shaming. But sometimes, if you're just enabling the victim mentality, you're encouraging the toxicity to continue, which is exactly why we have such a toxic society at present day, right? And it has been demonstrated that we not be self-honoring because that's shameful somehow. Because if we put ourselves first and what we want or don't want, then that means we're like somehow being bad people because we're not allowing the bad behavior to be enabled further. That's basically what it amounts to. So my parents are not going to just walk away from their toxicity. The world that we've been in, especially, my mother was my grandfather's like number one enabler. Yeah, we're enabling the old man, going to let his bad behavior just thrive because she was stuck in her wound and living from her wound. He's gone now. Finally. Thank God. He is gone now. It took way longer than it should have. But now, you can be damn sure she is trying to soak up all the supply that, she was making sure he had access to, and now he doesn't need it now. So that's on her, right? So, all the energy that my aunt was expending and going over there and helping as much as she was too. I've talked about my aunt being the first scapegoat because, she was the second child, and my mom was so busy enabling my grandfather that, I think the middle sister was the first scapegoat. But my mom just thinks that it's this hilarious thing because I don't know why she's afraid of them or why she wouldn't want to spend time with them together. My mom's all about, she can't go over there and spend time with grandma unless I'm there. That as my mom is there. And it's like, just the way she's talking about things right now. Okay. My aunt is very much the type where if you show up at my grandma's house and she has the puppy over there, especially if you know anything about dogs and have trained dogs at all, which obviously we have had a lot of dogs in my lifetime. I think, honestly, okay, a couple years ago we had the registers and the air conditioning and all that stuff like cleaned, like all the vents cleaned and all that stuff. And my mom said something about she didn't think we'd had it done at all in the time that we've lived here. We've lived here since I was 4. Well, I haven't lived here in that entire time, but been back and forth way more than I care to admit to. I mean, I have no reason to deny it because I'm fucking 41 and living at home now because the universe is trying to make sure I am good and ready to cut this completely out of my life because I am ready for this old way of being to be gone. The old me to be dead and gone, and we're not doing that no more. We're not falling into other people's bullshit, and we're not enabling the bad behavior and them walking all over people because they feel they have some kind of right to it because they've been enabled and had their ass kicked in various ways. Or kissed. That was like 3 thoughts combined into one right there. This is why I sometimes struggle on the things. But, yeah, because like while I was saying whatever it was I just said, I was also thinking about the bully in high school, the one who his daddy didn't want anything to do with him, so it was his job to make everybody else's life as miserable as his was because his dad didn't want anything to do with him. And then the next one, beyond him, who thought that dude was so freaking badass that he was going to like bully people just because he wanted to win that guy's approval. And of course, I was an easy target. Not God, especially with all this damn all these water placements and this Neptune complex thing that makes it more dreamy and hard to know what's going on in my world, and fuck it. But yeah, made it real hard to really find myself. That's one thing that my pattern app often comes back to is it may take you longer than others to find who you truly are in the world. It's like, yeah. And I think it even said specifically 40 to 41, which is funny because that makes it make even more sense, like on the astrological end and like the channeling kinds of things, like the things that I've known and not known how I've known along the line. Because I have mentioned many, many times that my senior year in high school was when I had that sort of knowing that Tyler was going to die in our mid-30s, and that would be the reason our little group came back together for a time. And then I would be in my 40s before I really started making sense of things. And of course, the other one was just that the connection with the five guys. I knew I was somehow meant to change the world with, kind of a thing. But that one still remains to be seen. However, it's very deeply entrenched in this whole twin flame thing that I will come back to this point of came right up when I was 4, and I think he checked in before he incarnated in a body because he wanted to make sure we're still good to go with the plan, right? The plan that we planned before we came here onto this planet. And holy fuck. But he said then that it would be very hard, but in the end it would be completely worth it. So I'm just now getting to the part where it's getting really close to the part where I finally see the stuff that's worth it. Oh, but man. Yeah. And mainly because I set the intention, or I had that thought this weekend of I'm ready for the good to come in. And if I have to cut all of this off, I'm ready. And, I've talked many times about how I think I'm pretty sure that the universe is just kind of going to keep giving me these little moments like today with my mom and her bullshit. And it's not going to change, right? It's still going to stay like this, right? Oh, the thing that I didn't know if I conveyed well or not. I do not believe anybody is beyond redemption. I do, however, believe there are certain people that will not change if there is any chance that they will continue to have the bad behavior enabled. My mother is one of those people. My father as well. Well, he's not going to be him changing will not be as difficult as it would be for my mother, but he's not going to change at all if me and my brother are still around. He will have to get to a point where he has to deal with my mother by himself and really realize the kind of bullshit he's gone along with too, because, my mom, it all comes from the wound. I can see the wound. I know that, she was always trying to earn daddy's approval and, earn his love and affection. And enabling his bad behavior was how she best received it. But that's not love. What he had to give was shit. Because he was incapable of love because he too was living from his wound. Right? And, just forever being enabled and allowed to exist in the toxicity. Now, well, I said, I don't think anybody is beyond redemption. As long as there is anyone that is going along with that in any kind of way, they're going to keep being that way. They're going to not change until they have no option to change. And the only way it gets to the point where they have no option but to change will be when the bad behavior is seen for what it is clearly by so many and no one puts up with it anymore. It's that whole point of there is no growth without suffering. The ones that are here basking in the bad behavior and, enabling the bad behavior of others and being enabled in their bad behavior, all that bullshit. They're the ones that have basically been bullying the rest of us, they've been bullying the rest of us as a means of supply, if you will, because as they make us feel like shit, they somehow gain some sort of power in having made somebody else feel like shit. Because they brought somebody else into their misery, yay me, kind of a thing. And it's not fun. It's not pleasant. you know, I've talked about that narcissistic abuse support group that I joined briefly on Facebook for a while, and it was like real quick after my divorce, and I was still working at the first factory and all this shit. And it really got to a point where it just pissed me off because everybody was just like being encouraged to remain in the victim mentality. Look, you have to process through some hard shit. But if you're only committed to remaining the victim, that is absolutely a toxic space as well. I can speak from experience on that because I was there. I did that. That was most of my life. But just watching like the dynamic in the group, it was like, I don't want this for myself. I don't want to be forever the victim and never have anything worthwhile come be able to amount from my life because I had a lot of hard shit that I had to go through first or whatever. It's like, no, I don't want that. I want whatever good is meant for me in my lifetime. Now, that's a big part of why I always knew that I was going to have to be the one to get divorced in the family. Distracted by a siren. And the big thing was the false beliefs that go into keeping people in toxic relationships, especially marriages. And I think back to the second factory that I was working at, and this girl that just was talking shit about her husband all the time. My mom does it to my dad a lot too, and usually behind his back and all this stuff. And it's like, if you're that miserable, why are you still together? If you have nothing but mean things to say, why would you stay in that situation? And ultimately, it's because it's safe. But it's really not, because emotionally, that's the worst emotional space to be in, is not feeling safe at all. I've talked on here many times about feeling unsafe in my own body, when this whole process really started kicking up. And it was because that was how I ended up with my ex. I ended up in that situation because this toxic family situation that I came out of set me up to. But it wasn't until I chose to leave him to try to have some kind of not shitty existence, even though I wasn't thinking it was real, something super, super amazing for me, but it was, anything's better than that. But then once I got out of it, then it's like, okay, now how did I get there? And then it's like, holy fuck. It's like, this is really my entire life. Because my mom and her toxicity, that's been with me since she was pregnant with me, right? So everything I carried with me on that end, everything I was born into, everything that was demonstrated for me growing up, that shit's hard to work through. Not impossible. Not impossible at all. Fucking hard, but not impossible. And again, I'm going to revisit that point of nobody is ever exclusively the hero, the villain, the victim, or the saint. We all go through all of these phases at some point in time, however long or short, because that's part of the learning and growth process. And if okay, I'm thinking when there have been times in my life that I wasn't particularly nice to people, it didn't make me feel good about being shitty to other people or making them feel bad or in any kind of way like that. It did make me realize that I didn't want to do that I didn't want to perpetuate the bad behavior, that just because somebody else was bullying me, I didn't want to be somebody else's bully. And it's really hard to hold on to that point when, I think honestly that's why there's so much suicidal ideation, and the suicide is such a big thing these days anyway, is just because there are so many people that are not okay with perpetuating the cycle of bullying, but at the same time, the pain of existing gets to be too much. And that was where all my suicidal ideation, like for all those years, was really the biggest, was when it was the pain of existing. And now it's kind of at a point where I know there are good things out there for me, and I know that I will have good things in my life very soon. And I cannot let this family continue to block the good things from coming into my life just because they're miserable and they only want to be miserable. I refuse to do that. And because of that, I'm willing to walk away completely. And it literally takes choosing to walk away from the bad behavior to be able to get to the better things out there. But there's a lot of healing in the process. But I know it will be worth it. And I think that's okay. I've talked on here a lot too about Dolores Cannon and the book 3 Waves of Volunteers in the New Earth, and how the second wave is basically this generation that sees all the painful shit and is deciding to not allow it to continue. We're having to transmute out the bad stuff that we've had to experience so we can get rid of it for the whole, for the collective. And those that come after us, once enough of this work has been done, eventually it's not going to be a thing anymore. Right? I set an alarm to make sure I was paying attention so I don't miss picking up Gracie. So I do need to wrap it up. Yeah. The first wave was the beacons, and I've talked about how it was like Keanu Reeves, Brendan Fraser, the dudes from Metallica, the ones that have been important for me to see in my lifetime as people that haven't necessarily had it easy, but have been true to who they are and are able to stand as beacons for the rest of us that, hey, it's possible. And like, my part of this whole thing is sharing my healing process where anybody can access it at some point in time. When the time is right and the universe can put me in front of whoever it wants me to be in front of to talk about this experience so other people can make connections for themselves. It's like, that is part of the transmutation process. It's part of transmuting the bad, the heavy, the dense out so we can get to the ascension thing. It's like, so we can elevate higher and access things that we couldn't even dream of before because we were so locked into the negativity that was been beaten into us basically by the world around us, But again, it's fucking snowing. The hell, man. Yeah, but like, as long as the bad behavior is enabled anywhere, it's going to continue. But when enough of us stop allowing it to be the norm and it becomes the thing that, is then a problem, the bullies that have been enabled to maintain their bully status and stay the energy vampires that they have been, will eventually change, but not until enough other stuff has shifted and they really can't do anything but look at who they are and where they've been in their lives. It's like, once they get to that point, then then they might stand some sort of chance of shifting. But the biggest thing is I can't fix my parents. And it's not for lack of trying. I have been here and bent over backwards my entire life trying to help them out of their misery. But they want to be miserable. That's on them. That is not on me. I will not do that anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up so I can get over there or so I can look into whether I need to pick up the kid, because she said if I didn't hear from her, then she would, or then consider she'd pick her, or was it? I don't remember if it was, if I heard from her, then I wouldn't need to pick her up, or vice versa. I don't remember which she said, but I should probably verify one way or the other, even though I know she went to fucking Sam's Club, so she's probably going to be there for a minute or two. So she can come back with all the things that won't fit in the fridge and say, look, I did something good and I got all these things that you like. Even though I pissed you off in all this other way. Anyway, as exciting as this one has been, maybe I just need to get fired up more often. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to call it. So, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time. See ya.